Hello again, it's Dr. Jonathan with the live 12 at 12. I kind of feel like I'm doing a newscast for the soul, and I think I like it. Of course, many of you visit me and connect with me at the Althea Center, but here on my own Facebook page, Jonathan Ellerby, PhD, I get to kind of run a little bit wild and do my own thing, but everyone's welcome, so I'm so grateful to connect with people from my past work, whether it was from Mexico or Canyon Ranch or even up in Canada. I'm just grateful to have a format and a forum to be here live sharing some perspective that can help people through these strange, complicated, painful, and powerfully awakening times. I just finished actually a session at Althea on the Althea Center Denver page, and so if you want to deeper dive with me, Sundays I'm on the Althea Center Denver Facebook page at 10:30 in the morning, and that is an online gathering with meditation and prayer and a much longer message than this. And then Thursday we also are doing something at 11 a.m. and all this is Mountain Time USA. But daily I am doing my best to always be here live for a 12-minute session at 12 o'clock Mountain Time, and then it's of course recorded, and so many of you are seeing it later. The topic I wanted to talk about today is grief, and grief is something that is coming up for a lot of people as they are facing the experience of quarantine or self-quarantine and all the social, political, and economic constraints that are being put on our lives. Now, one of the things that I think is absolutely critical to remember about grief as we just plow right into the topic is that grief is a precondition of life. And that is not something that we are all taught. In other words, there is no experience of life without grief. The only exceptions might be if there is some severe neurological impairment in which someone can't experience the qualities of grief. But even in those cases, what's most likely going on is that people have a difficult time recognizing their feeling of grief. But grief is an energetic law. So let's talk a little bit about what I mean by that. If life and the universe, existence itself is energy at various levels of manifestation from subtle to gross, then there is an experience in the human condition when energy changes. So the human is operating at multiple levels, right? We have our self system, that's ideas of who we are and what we do. There's the soul system, that's the true self, the authentic nature. And then there's the spirit system, and that is the infinite consciousness of existence that lives within us as us. When we are in the human identity or the human system, when we're operating from that place, then everything will be filtered through mental, emotional, and physical dimensions. Mental, emotional, and physical experiences. Therefore, when we go from job to no job, or relationship to no relationship, or busy to not busy, whatever the change in energetic conditions is, there must be a transition and a reintegration. So at some subtle energetic level, every change of a pattern that consistently is fed and engaged and that could even be self, sort of a identity. That could be, as I said, a job, a relationship, a habit. Anytime we move from A to B, there has to be some quality of disintegration, some quality of transition, and then some quality of reintegration. Now, the curse or problem in our society is that because we aren't taught these stages, at best, we embrace these changes symbolically, but without much contemplation. So the symbolic representation of transitions are typically in ceremony. So ceremony is a behavioral activity in which we organize energy in time and space, right, with objects, songs, presentations, a unique setting, sometimes unique costumes, to acknowledge what was will no longer exist. So when we get married, we go through all kinds of rituals to say that these who were once two are going to dress up in these funny costumes. They will be observed by other people in funny costumes. We will sing and pray and create a truly unique space. And when it's all over, they will never be the same again. But of course, because our culture is not conscious of the need for this, then two terrible things happen. One, people unconsciously seek the rituals to enact their changes. So if you don't help a young person to truly embrace what it means to go from a lack of responsibility and self-awareness to full responsibility and self-accountability, they will create rituals unconsciously. And so hazing and binge drinking and the kind of iconic hangover style movie experience in which we, destroy ourselves and others in a kind of gleeful rediscovery of our freedom, and then everyone comes back changed, right? Like, that's our modern myth for the ritual of transformation. It's the hangover movie. That should tell you something about where we're at. Not that I didn't mind the movie. So we will either create it unconsciously because it is so essential to human health and wellness, or we will suffer its absence. And a great example of that would be divorce. That unless you are a part of conscious uncoupling or the conscious divorce movement, most of us go from all this time and energy put into creating the marriage, the wedding, the life together, and then all we get in the end is the unconscious release of energy in the form of anger, unresolved conversations, and then we carry all that is unreleased and ungrieved, not grieved. We carry it with us. So when we go through a time like a quarantine where things are being taken from us, regular routines, regular roles, and we have to slow down, we find that we haven't grieved so many things in our lives. In fact, the quarantine time for millions of people will be filled with grief. And it will be typically two kinds of grief. One, grief that should be felt for what we're going through. Like, wow, I thought the world was going to be one way, but it's not. Wow, I thought I was going to start a job, but I'm not. Wow, I was just ready to launch a company. I mean, I launched a travel company in January. The whole thing's in the toilet. So we need to take time to consciously acknowledge what we have had taken from us, what we have had interrupted, destroyed, or in the worst cases, broken in health or relationship, or relationships with loved ones. We do that by setting aside conscious time to look at it, to feel it, to talk about it. Maybe we need to write about it, journal about it, write a letter to someone, or even create some kind of a ritual for yourself. If you are in a place where you're allowed to go outside for exercise and a walk, take something of significance, a stone that you carry all day, a letter that you write to your future or yourself, whatever it is, the last flowers that you still have at home, and you carry it and you just consciously give yourself time to feel sadness, sorrow, regret, whatever that grief needs to look and feel like for what has been taken. And then as you let it go, you enter the consciousness of embracing the new normal. And now things are not being taken from you. On the other side of this, you're giving them up. You're releasing them. You're embracing the why of what we're doing. The other type of grief, and I know we just have to wrap up in a minute here, but the other type of grief that most of us are going to be facing is simply unresolved, unfelt grief. One of the most powerful therapeutic tools in the world is simply to create slow, silent time and space. Your body's natural impulse, physically and spiritually, is to heal and to restore balance. And if you have a lifetime of unfelt emotions relating to losses, departures, disappointments, then they will present themselves at first opportunity, even if you're not thinking about it. Because that grief is not negotiable. It's not about whether you wanted the change or not. You might have wanted the change. But no matter what, if there was a major transition in energy in your life, and for most of us, there have been thousands of these, from the loss of a dog to the failure of a test to a relationship that you wanted that never happened, all of these things come with the energy of grief. Grief wants to be felt. It doesn't need to be acted on in the sense of changing your decisions about life, but it wants to be acted on in the sense of being honored, engaged. And what it does for your mind is it prepares your emotional conditions so that your mind can get into the new normal, the new condition, and fully adapt without attachment to the past or the drain of unresolved emotions. So yes, as we come to a close today, it must be said that facing this time of quarantine is going to be painful. It's going to be challenging. It's going to be difficult for millions of people, and it can be healing. It can be restorative. It can be powerful. And it can allow us to catch up with ourselves finally. A world, a life moving so fast that we literally need weeks slowing down, doing less, so that the soul can come back together. All the pieces of our lives come back together. All the things we have never taken time to feel or grieve or consciously release. Now is our time. And if it's arising naturally, don't judge it. Don't label it. Don't regret it. Simply allow it to unfold just the same way seasons transition, and each form of life gives way to the next. Each has their time, each has their decay, and each has their renewal. So there we go. That's our 12 at 12 for today. Of course, it's always a little more than 12. Why don't we take just a quick moment to slow down and catch our breath. Big breath in. Big release. And let's just be still. Let the ideas and feelings settle in. And may we continue to use the gifts of self, the gifts of community, even if it's virtual, nature and spirit, to slow down and restore ourselves in these strange and difficult times. And may we have the presence and the commitment to love and allow whatever arises, so that we might move the energy through and experience all the beauty, love, and wisdom that awaits us and has always waited for us behind the busyness of life. So thank you, and we'll see you again soon.